Keyword research is the absolute foundation of SEO, where you want to find the exact searches that people are making that you can rank for and therefore sell to them. So if you're developing a brand or a product, then keyword research is a fantastic place to start, because where is there demand that people are already looking for something that you can satisfy that demand, and you can also have a look at the competition levels as well and see if you can identify a really good niche for your particular brand where there is volume but also lower competition. So you can use keyword research right back to the product creation and ideation stage. But if you're watching this video, you're probably a cannabis marketer already, you have a product to sell, and you know that SEO is basically the most effective way of marketing your cannabis brand that circumnavigates a lot of restrictions. And you probably already know that the fundamentals of keyword research basically involve using a tool, whether it's Google Keyword Planner or Ahrefs, and just going through ticking off all these searches people are making, whether it's for particular products or it's questions about those products. You can take keyword research in all kinds of different directions. But today I want to give you a slight nuance, which could seriously hold back your brand if you're not careful. And it is basically this: loads of people will tick off all these keywords based on volume, keyword difficulty, CPC value, things like that. So in this case, you could have a fantastic example like cannabis oil, and you think it's got 6,600 searches per month. The actual traffic potential is 32,000, and that's because you've got all these other search terms in there, like CBD oil, for instance. So we've got all these different related keywords, which basically means the number one result for cannabis oil only gets searched 6,600 times a month, but the number one result actually gets 32,000 searches per month. So this Healthline article. And you do get metrics like keyword difficulty. I generally tend to ignore these because they're just a bit too two-dimensional. And the topic of this video today is exactly why I'm explaining this. So what you really need to do when you find a keyword you really care about, actually have a look at the search result for that location, for that keyword. So cannabis oil in the United States. And if we scroll down here, now the keyword difficulty will mainly be looking at backlinks. And generally it's page level backlinks. So 35,000, 71,000, and that's basically why it's giving us this high keyword difficulty score. But a lot of these backlinks are not going to be particularly powerful. These are purely quantitative rather than qualitative. We can see down here there's a 3,000 backlink article still ranking on page 1. And then down here there's a page ranking with just 20 backlinks. So you can still get on page 1 even though you don't have 35,000 backlinks. And quite often you'll see the opposite is true, where a page might not have any backlinks and therefore the keyword difficulty from a tool will be really low, but you might find it's a really powerful DR90 site. It could be some big global brand. So just because the page doesn't have any backlinks, you'll still find the domain alone means it's always going to be number one and really difficult to compete with. However, the topic of today's video is much more about search intent and exactly how Google treats different keywords. Now we talk about keywords being navigational, commercial, transactional, and it's basically what is that person actually looking for, and how is Google guessing that? How is Google understanding what they're probably searching for? And therefore, what kind of results is Google delivering for that particular search? Now, a lot of the time, cannabis oil would say, this is an item, this is a product. So this would be top marks for a good commercial transactional keyword. But it still pays to actually look at the search results, because in this particular example, we can find the search results are very biased in a certain way. And what we notice is everything we have here are big medical journals. So we've got Healthline, we've got health.harvard.edu, we've got mayoclinic.org, and we've got the NHS in the UK. So in doing your simple keyword research, you might say, great, cannabis oil, lots of volume, let's go after that, even if the difficulty is quite high. But the odds are really stacked against you because the types of pages that Google is ranking for that particular keyword are much more like medical journals. So as a cannabis brand, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually rank for that. So it does happen. There are cannabis brands. There's one cannabis brand on page 1, but otherwise it's Cancer Research UK and the CDC. So 9 out of the 10 on page 1 are all these sort of big governmental or health authorities. So really focus on checking the individual search results. I had a consulting call recently with a wedding magician, and he was doing all this effort to try and rank his page that at the time previously been up in the top 3, but then he came to me because he dropped down to around position 6, 7, and he was doing everything right. The content was all good, he was building links, and what ultimately happened was I looked at the page 1 for his particular keyword for wedding magicians, and actually the top 4 were all directory websites. And we could trace this back to the most recent Google update, where we could quite clearly see before the update we had 4 actual individual wedding magicians in the top 5. But immediately after the update, it all became directory websites, having a full page of different magicians, and the individual magicians' websites had dropped further down. And it's kind of the same thing here. So especially in these kinds of grey niches, Google does treat the organic results slightly differently. For instance, for a lot of mental health queries, I can put in feeling worthless, and I immediately get NHS mental health services at the top, because Google does kind of have an obligation to make sure it's providing help for people in urgent need. Sometimes you'll even get a feature snippet at the top saying, here is the number for Samaritans. So it's kind of the same thing in the cannabis niche. Depending on what the actual product is and where it stands in the law, the search results can be slightly different. So for cannabis oil, it's not much commercial, only one commercial page. It's pretty much all health and medical content from big authorities. Whereas if we switch this over to CBD oil, we'll probably find that gets much more lenient treatment. So if we come down page 1 for CBD oil, we've got a load of ads at the top because Google does still allow promoting CBD within certain restrictions. And then down here, albeit quite far down page 1, but we still have a lot more commercial stuff. So we've got CVS, charlottesweb.com, and New Leaf Natural. So this basically means two things for you. When you're doing keyword research, really try and bear in mind which of these searches are kind of rigged against you, where you've got different kinds of websites in the top that are not transactional commercial web pages. But also if you are working with an existing site and you find you're stuck at position 5, 6, 7, something like that, and you're struggling to really push it above that, have a look at page 1 and you might well find you've just not got the right kind of content or the right kind of website. So don't beat yourself up about it too much. Do keep an eye on it through different Google updates and as legislation changes, because sometimes Google can flip a switch and suddenly completely change the ordering of the sites on page 1. But generally in these kinds of grey niches, do pay attention to what's ranking, because if you're not the right kind of website, then you're just not going to rank.